What's up, you beautiful chuds, and welcome to the Let's Talk Horror Channel podcast. Welcome to the Creep Zone, where we have very unrated, unfiltered conversations about something from the world of horror. This episode I am super excited about because I have a couple of my favourite guys, a couple of absolute fucking hunks with me today on the episode. But also we're talking about a movie that is all about fucking partying. It's a right fucking party time, and that is all I'm about. I don't just sit here in my fucking room recording episodes every weekend just to bring it out for you. I'm sitting here, I'm fucking partying it up. Living the vida loca, as Ricky Martin says. Is he cancelled? I don't fucking know yet. But
I think he's just retired.
He's just retired. That's basically getting cancelled, isn't it? But yeah, we're here once again to have a conversation about another movie. And this movie, as I said, is a super fucking party time. It's a super fun one. We're talking about Return of the Living Dead. And I'm super excited about this because, as I said, I've got a couple of absolute hunks with me. We've got John and Sean from one of my favourite podcasts that is out there, the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. Hello to absolutely both of you gorgeous gents.
Hey, baby. How you doing? You want to date?
I was expecting to be called a legend, and I'm disappointed now.
Well, I'll go back. We're editing. We had that thing, when they just edit one word over it. So every time I say hunk, it just goes legend. And
legend.
Yeah, that's like it. I'll find the weirdest voice that I could possibly find. But yeah, we are here to talk about Return of the Living Dead. Now, if you know this show, then of course you know what Dewey Pod Monster is. If you don't, you're a fucking moron. You will of course you will know what Dewey Pod Monster is. But they will promote obviously absolutely everything as usual at the end of the episode. So stick around. But it's a show that I absolutely love, and we have collaborated multiple times, many times now. If you've listened to any of the shows I've done with Dewey Pod Monster, you'll know the reference of Mad Balls that Sean is wearing the t-shirt for. I sort of wore my chopping wall t-shirt for these guys as well because I know they love it. So if you're listening to this, you're fucked basically because you have no idea what we're referencing. This is why you should be watching it on YouTube. Please subscribe. But there we go.
I like it.
Yeah, that's it. But of course, Return of the Living Dead. There is no better people for me to have on than John and Sean. I know John's absolute love for this movie, and of course, one of its stars, Linnea Quigley. There's probably not a man on this earth that loves Linnea Quigley, not even her husband, if she's got one, more than John.
There better not be. I'll fight him.
Fighting to the death. It'd be like that bit in Cable Guy, but
pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm so happy to have you guys back on the show. But yeah, of course, we're going to get right into talking about Return of the Living Dead, and of course, in a sec, I will be asking you both when the first time that you saw this movie, because for you guys, I'm pretty sure it might be a lot earlier than it was for me. Because obviously where you guys are in the US, you are the fucking best at anything at horror, and we suck. So there we go.
I heard this just came out in England like last week, so it's a new release for you guys. So
I'll fucking get
a lot of heat on this episode.
Oh, there's going to be some fucking heat. I'm going to be throwing shade, as these kids call it, or whatever it's fucking called. I don't fucking know. Anyway, so the film was released in 1985. Now I've established because I almost got it wrong. It's directed by Dan O'Bannon. He hasn't really done much else that I know of, apart from the fact that I know that he's written and co-written a shitload of stuff for like the Alien franchise and stuff. I don't know if he had anything to do with Alien Earth that's just come out. I'm not too sure. He might have written any of that.
He's dead, so probably not.
He's dead?
Yeah.
Like 20 years.
For fuck's sake. Well done, research. I'm firing that motherfucker. So he's dead, so he won't be doing anything to do with that. R.I.P. Rest in peace. Live. Fuck's sake, I fucked that up. So anyway, so he's dead, so he won't be right.
I think you played it perfectly. So again, everything gets to you like way later than it gets to us. So it makes
just died there like a week ago.
Yeah. Right. I know. I mean, I'm just waiting for Hulk Hogan to die. But I
got bad news for you, man.
R.I.P. Hulkster, the big
fuck him.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. So he's starring. Now I put a name at the front of it, of course, Linnea Quigley, the beautiful Linnea Quigley, possibly the most beautiful punk lady on screen. Maybe the most beautiful zombie on screen. Don't know. I haven't looked into it. I'm not a perv. Kaluga, is that one of it? Is that his name?
We always say Gallagher, but usually I hear it pronounced as Gallagher.
I don't know. I've just got it written down here, copy and pasted.
He's a
Tom
fucking
Matthews,
legend, is what he is.
Yeah,
he is a legend, and he's so good in this. Tom Matthews, James Karen, Don Calfer, Brian Peck, Alan Troutman, I don't know, and Miguel A. Nunez Jr., and obviously there's so many more. Yeah, there's so many people in this film, and we'll get into it. What's great about this movie is that it doesn't ever feel like, well, I mean, you might disagree, but for me, it never feels like overpopulated. Like it always feels like you've got like the punks, you've got them doing their stuff, you've got the fucking shit show that's happening with all these characters that we get into. But it never, even though I just now, said loads of cast, it never feels like overpopulated. That you think it is, or
No, I don't think it is. I mean, you need a large cast for a movie like this because zombies got to eat, right? So, yes. But they do a really good job of not only balancing out how many characters they have, but making their stories intertwine in a way that feels, I guess, natural considering the circumstances and how the movie plays. So.
Yeah, it's really organically done. How it never feels like a separate movie. It always still feels like the one movie where they're on their own paths and their own journeys. Yet those journeys come together, and then you're just like, oh, it's still the same movie, and then it just evolves from there, and everything's just a big fucking party time. But also, I'm just going to keep saying that throughout this episode because I can't pay to put the song in the fucking episode. So, and I don't know how long I can get without getting copyright. So on IMDb, it is 7.3 out of 10 and 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. So if, as I say on these episodes, if you live and breathe and you live your life by Rotten Tomatoes, if you're one of those people, good on you. But this is telling you that you should probably go and watch this movie at 91%. And 7.3 on IMDb. And let's remember that this is, a zombie movie from the 80s, the type of subgenre within horror where so many of these movies are the biggest pile of shit that you'll see. Zombie movies are, as I always say, zombie movies are the easiest movies to make in horror because they're human. So you can do so many different versions of it that kids can make zombie movies. Anyone can make zombie movies, but most of them are shit. That's why there's so many. But this
Are you trying to tell me that The Video Dead is not a good film?
I'll tell you that it's a piece of shit. Yeah. But not wrong. But yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, the zombie movies are so easy to make. So it's actually a rarity when you get one that seems to be like a critical success as well as like one that's like renowned throughout horror. Obviously, I'll get into about how well this movie is sort of known over in this country. But I know over over stateside and that, I think it's a pretty big movie, right? Still.
I think at this point it's probably closer to like cult classic or like B-movie classic type status. I don't think as far as popularity, it's not like with the Michaels, the Freddys, all those types of guys. It's not one of those. And I don't think it compares like in popularity to even some of the stuff like the 28 Days Later franchise or The Walking Dead. I think it's better than both those, but I think those would be dramatically more popular than what this. I think there's a lot of people that don't like. I think it's the people that don't like going back and watching old movies, and I guess this movie's old I think it's 40 years old at this point. So I think there's a lot of people who just haven't gone back and found it still because zombies had that big resurgence in the 2015-ish, the second half of that roughly. Whenever. I think there's a lot of people that just never went back and went to look for some of those old classics. And I'm sure you could probably say the same thing about the original Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, insert other good zombie movie that I'm spacing on at the moment. I don't know how much people go back and look for movies like this.
Yeah.
I think if you're a genre fan, you would, but other than that, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still one of these movies where I'm still trying to because it's got pretty popular in regards to, like, there's probably more people that have T-shirts and merchandise for this movie than they've probably seen it. Like, it's like the whole, like, should you
Yeah.
be wearing a band T-shirt when you don't know the band? There's like that whole thing now, isn't there, where a lot of people
Toddlers
return
wearing their
dead.
Nirvana shirts.
Yeah,
I think, like, if you're a horror fan, this is like required viewing. But
yes.
if you're like a modern zombie fan, I could totally see this being off your radar. So
Yeah, you're right. But it is one of those movies that I feel it's one of those movies that still feels like, even though it is from the 80s, there's something that still feels, and I don't know whether it's just because it's like the attitude of the movie, but there's still something like really like feels quite modern, but I don't know whether it's because of its uniqueness or its creativity. There's something that still when I watch this movie every time, there's still, and we get into it all, but there's so much more than just a zombie movie in this movie, and the way that they approach the characters, the way they approach zombies. Like if you look at this movie and then you look at like Zombie Flesh Eaters or Zombie 2, whatever you want to fucking call it, the millions of names it's got, like they are so vastly different. And it's so interesting that you have like so much variety within the zombie genre and stuff. But whereas Zombie Flesh Eaters does feel reasonably dated, so to speak, and movies a bit like that, and even Dawn of the Dead in respects obviously feels a bit dated, I don't feel that this one falls victim to being as dated as those sort of movies, to the point where, as I said, when I watched it the other night, I'm like, this still really holds up, even though, like they are proper punked out in this movie and stuff, but full on like 80s.
I think the reason it holds up like that, and I think you could say the same thing about the majority of good zombie like stuff. Dawn of the Dead is like this, and quite a few others. The human characters are all extremely relatable. Whether or not you like them, dislike them, whatever, their actions and what they do in this like insane situation are moderately logical considering the circumstance. So you don't necessarily have to be a punk kid to like understand where they are like that, but like the way they respond to this like, quickly spiraling situation, it's logical. It's not like they just go into this funeral home and find, oh look, there happen to be a plethora of assault rifles in here or whatever. It's all very as grounded as a zombie in reality as a zombie movie can be.
You mean under the funeral home there is no like hidden buried army surplus
I mean,
store or camo
if you
output or
believe the
depot or whatever?
stories that Ernie is a Nazi in this, maybe there is, but like they don't have anything like that in the film. So
No, he's just like what is he, a coroner or a mortician or whatever he is,
right.
who has a fucking gun looking after dead bodies, you know what I mean? Just in case they come alive.
That's very American. That is 100% American.
Just in But yeah, so Google synopsis wise, when Frank and Freddie, a bumbling pair of employees at a medical supply warehouse, accidentally release a deadly gas into the air, the vapors cause the dead to reanimate as they go on a rampage through Louisville, Kentucky, seeking out their favorite food, brains. I do like the fact as well that this is like a proper, with everything that happens with it, it is a proper zombie movie, as in they aren't the quickest. It is like old school zombie, and they are literally after brains. Like that's what I love about it. Like they're just
this movie's the
walking around.
genesis of this is the movie that created that cliche that they eat brains.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I do love that you get the sense of like the old school and the modernization of, like, obviously at the time the 80s. It's such a well put together blended of everything that sort of came before it and of that time. And as I said, it still to this day doesn't feel dated at all, even though it could so easily be a movie that feels dated, because the 80s was such a big sort of time in regards to like the characters and so on, and we get into the characters and stuff, and obviously the music was such a big thing in the 80s and so on. You would think it would feel dated, and it really doesn't. But as I said, we'll get into that. But obviously the question that I always love to ask everyone is, when did you guys first see the movie?
Sean, you want to go first?
Sure. I don't, honestly, I can't remember when I saw this. It wasn't obviously not when it came out. I was like 8 years old, so I probably wouldn't have seen it then. But I would say, shit, maybe like VHS era. It may have been early DVD, but I feel like I saw this on TV at some point, and it would have been, I don't know. I think I saw part 2 first, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. What's this all about?" And then I went back and searched out the first one eventually at some point, but I honestly couldn't put a time frame on it. But it's been like as far back as I can remember watching horror movies. I feel like I've seen this, but I couldn't put a date on it.
No,
I
so
always
but
want
it's a movie that's been a good part of your life for a long time.
Yeah, it's
Sean.
been definitely in the memory for a long time.
I always go looking, like occasionally pull up a search for the Freddy TV version jacket that he wears, because his jacket in the movie, in the art, in the like theatrical and most cuts, says "fuck you" on the back of it. The TV edit one's better because it says TV edit on the back of it, and I would absolutely like to have a varsity jacket that says TV edit on the back of it. But
I had no idea. That's like the most
yeah,
fucking. What did they? How did they do it? Did they? How do they do it? Back like
I'm sure they just use multiple
Alternate cuts or
shots for the
something.
same. Yeah,
yeah,
so
I guess so. Yeah,
because I mean, I'm sure everything they had to do at least 2 or 3 times on this, but yeah, there's only a handful of scenes where you can really see it, because there's a lot of cuts where like he's far enough away or the jacket's far enough away that, especially if you're like pre HD and all that, you're not really going to be able to read it. But there's only like when he bursts out of the chapel later in the movie, and he's all double fisting like invisible
yeah.
dicks to go after people. That's where you can really see it. It's in that particular scene when he's going out, like when he turns and starts doing that. But yeah, I would love to have the TV edit version. Every Halloween they could bring out, like, you can find the movie cut where it says "FU" on the back of it, which it's like fine, but I don't need that. I'd much rather have the TV edit one. So
Well, it almost feels like more punk that way as well, doesn't it? Like I know, like just having something saying "fuck you" on the back is something like that, but that is like the modern day "fu," isn't it? Of like putting
yeah.
something that's like that having on the back TV edit.
Hmm.
But yeah, when was your first time? Was this an early one for you as well, John? Or
Oh yeah. So I don't know exact. I know I would have been somewhere between like 11 and 13, in that ballpark as far as like age. It was a VHS like video store rental. I was interested in the cover. I don't think I would have called myself a little punker at this point, but just the look of the poster for it with the mohawk zombie and the big titted leg zombie, and the just what it looked, I was like, well, that looks interesting. So I rented it, brought it home, watched it, and it immediately kickstarted me into puberty, and it became a instant like favorite of mine. I've loved this movie from the instant that I saw it. So,
yeah,
and this
this is
is the
one of
first movie for me that really does a good job of blending horror and comedy and not making it feel like it's over pushing either way. Like, it balances it just flawlessly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. I think like you said earlier as well, and that like this movie, every aspect of it blends so well organically and naturally together that even though we've got these characters in it and we're introduced and we talk about that, but you get all these characters that are very much of a time in cinema where people actually gave a shit about writing characters and different characters, but people also gave a shit about being their own character. And that obviously is, very lost. I talk about that obviously all the time, especially now in modern horror, where like all the modern horrors, all the characters, they're not like they used to be, where like this actor has purposely gone in, so to speak, and being like, well, I would be like this, and this person's like, I'm like this. And then you get a movie like Return of the Dead, where you get so many different actors in it, but yet every one of them feels so different, whereas now if you had a cast like this, an ensemble cast with people now modern day, so many of them don't feel any different to the one that's next to them or the other side. You know what I mean? They all feel sort of blend into one. Whereas this, you've got so many great characters, but everything really does really does naturally fit together. Like you're saying, with the comedy and like with the horror side of it. This obviously does go to some dark places, but then you've got the comedy side of it. But it never feels like it never feels like it's taking the piss. Like it always feels like it is exactly what it's meant to be, which I love about it. Like it is purely this like punk rock horror comedy zombie movie, but it's so natural in every single aspect of it. And, it gets, pretty fucked up, and we'll talk about that. But it's such a fun movie. But yeah, with me, this was actually a later one. This is one of the ones that I'm absolutely gutted that I didn't get to watch as a kid. Because I would have loved it. It was
See,
just like everything.
everyone was started puberty for like years earlier. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I would have been as big of a fan as Linnea Quigley as you are. But yeah, this is a later one because, like, as we all know, like I always say, like the UK is so behind on horror ever since the 80s. All this country has tried doing is banning horror, or horror is still. I mean, I even had this conversation with somebody the other day how horror still in this country is almost like so taboo, where you're like still almost an outcast, so to speak, if you love horror movies. Like, it's so fucking weird that we're living in 2025. And of course, in the last, say, 5 or 10 years, a lot of stuff has changed. It's becoming a lot more popularized, where it's to the point where now it makes money, so they can't really say no. But for many years, obviously, being, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, that if you wanted horror, you had to really try and find it. And you would go to your Blockbuster, and it would be there, and you would basically just look at the covers and then be like, oh wow, this is, I want to watch this one, and so on. And Blockbuster was such an influential and amazing part of my life. But it was the reason that I found so many of these movies. But this is a movie that I never got to find when I was younger, and I only ended up watching it when I ended up buying it on DVD from like a second-hand place, because I was like, look at the cover of this. And then obviously, without knowing, I thought that it was one of the movies that I missed. It's part of like the Dawn of the Dead, the Night of the Living Dead, and so on. And obviously, it's not part of that. And I'll talk about that as well, because
it's got a history there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of history there, and I thought it was part of that until I started, like, obviously reading up on it and learning more about it. That it's, the reason as to why it's sort of not really part of that sort of, that side of it. But yeah, it was one of those movies that I remember just as much as anybody else that watches this, that you sort of instantly fall in love with it. But I think so. I was probably like about 17, maybe even 18 when I watched this one. Actually, I think I must have been, no, do you know what? I must have been older. I might have been about 19 when I watched this. And, but yeah, absolutely gutted that I didn't get to see this when I was younger, because this is, I grew up on, like punk rock and hair metal. Like, hair metal is like I was literally cooking the other day listening to the Trick or Treat soundtrack. Like, that's what I was brought up on and stuff. So if seeing this as a kid, I feel like would have like continued to shape me into the person that I was and am still, just a fucking idiot. But yeah, it was just such a great movie to see, even at that thing. But I wish I'd had the opportunity to see it when I was younger. But doesn't mean that I don't absolutely bloody love it as much. But I do want to talk about, because you guys might know more than me, but. So, as I said, this isn't officially part of the Romero Living Dead sort of stuff. So all I've got is basically that they had a dispute that George A. Romero and John Russo, I think it is, who's a co-writer of the original Night of the Living Dead, basically they had like a falling out or something, or I don't know what it was, or a conflict or something like that. And basically they split ways, they parted ways. And it means that they split ways. So Romero has got the prefix of the dead, I think it is. And then Russo gained the rights to the living dead. So if I'm right, I could be completely wrong, but I think that's what it is. So hence why it's called. Yeah, good. Hence why it's called Return of the Living Dead, because it can't be Night of anything. It has to be, Living Dead. But it isn't part of Romero's world, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So it's John Russo. They're coming to get you, Barbara guy, and one other dude. They split off from Romero. He wrote this story pretty much right after Night of the Living Dead came out. Romero went on to do other stuff, because I think he did Martin and the Crazies before he did Dawn of the Dead. And then obviously went back to zombies, where Russo basically just got stuck doing. He did a couple other things, but he did the Majorettes and another one I can't remember. But he never really kind of like shook the zombie genre. And once he did this, he went back and did his cut of Night of the Living Dead, which a lot of people hate. Stuff
Is
like
it
that.
shit?
He kind of stuck in the zombie genre for better or worse. But yeah, it's basically that. And there was a lawsuit between him and Romero even after that, because Romero was all pissed off that this came out right after Day of the Dead and like killed it in the box office. Like, I think I saw something where this went all the way up to number 2 in the box office, where Day of the Dead was like 12, something
Oh,
along
really?
those lines. And he was
Well,
pretty
this is
butthurt about that.
yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, because Day of the Dead is another one that I didn't watch until later as well. But I once again, it's not. I didn't really understand the differentiating like sort of factors of like whose is
Mm.
this and whose is this, and is it all part of the one thing? So I was waiting for all the connections and stuff like that, and then
Well,
it doesn't happen, and you're like, oh, hang on.
in fairness, I don't think I ever understood that until like way later. Like, I saw all those movies as a kid. I didn't know about like where John Russo and Romero. I just thought that they were just using the title for the sake of using a title, because let's face it, horror is a genre that's filled with people ripping off other people for better or worse. And I just figured they saw that the zombie thing was pretty cool, and they made a movie called Return of the Living Dead because they could. That's what I initially thought. I never really thought about how they intertwined until like way later on down the road. And really, until the internet came around, how the fuck am I going to know about that? Like, I'm not reading like trade papers about who's suing who in the movie industry back in the like mid 90s. That's not, whether that was available or not, I didn't know or care. I was too busy watching Linnea Quigley dance around a graveyard again. So
Yeah, yeah, I know. I wish that was happening in some of my graveyards. Not that I go to graveyards very often, but I'm just saying, if Linnea quickly was just fucking dancing naked, then I'll be there every night.
Sit at the lawn chair.
yeah,
Wait for it. I was going to add a lot of the lineage is covered, and a lot of things about this movie just in general, because it's a documentary about this movie. There is a documentary called More Brains, Return of the Living Dead documentary that's out there, and I think you can find it. It's I think
it's
you can
pretty
pay
good.
for it. Obviously, yeah, it's got a lot of cool background information about the casting, everything about this movie. So if you're like a completionist and you feel like you need to know a lot more about it, it's called More Brains: A Return to the Living Dead. It's from
Well, there we
2011.
go. I didn't even know that, so I'm so happy you
Mhm.
said that, because now I can bloody go and watch that, because I do want to know more about it, because there's so
It
much
pops
to
up
this
on
movie.
Tubi at like every other. It's one of those, like, it's on Tubi 1 month and it's off Tubi 1 month. So if it's not there now, it probably will be next month.
Oh,
So
awesome. Well, now you've given me another thing to watch, but that I'm actually looking forward to watch. Not some screen that's been sent to me that's a piece of shit. But so
Oddly specific, but okay.
yeah, I don't want to be specific. I can't even say the word. I'm so fucking out of it. So one of the things that I love about this is this has still got one of my favorite openings to a movie ever, purely in text. Now, the text, obviously, if you've seen this movie, but the text is oh, fuck, I literally had it written down here. I'm so pissed off. I hope somebody else has got it written down here. But there's some
June
text
3rd
basically.
or July 3rd, 1984.
No, it's there's
It's
some
like this
fucking text.
is maybe based on real or
Oh yeah,
Yes,
fictional events or whatever,
that's it.
something along
Yeah.
those
So
lines.
basically, there's text that comes up on the screen. There we go. So the events portrayed in this film are all true. The names and real names of people are real organizations. So that sort of thing, like straight away, I love that, because it's not. Like, obviously, it's not. But
You
I
could look
love the
through the
fact.
census and find somebody named Trash and be like, "Oh, Trash, they're from Louisville. This is where it happened."
This is what
obviously.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just love the fact that it is, because for me, it, like, the opening text of that is so much like the movie, because as we all know, it is this punk rock sort of movie. And already it sort of has that vibe from just an opening text on screen, that you already know that you're in this sort of almost like fuck you movie, like, and I absolutely love that side of it. But after this text, we're introduced to Frank and Freddie. Is it Frank and Freddie? I'm sure it is. I believe one of them. I can't remember who it
It's
is, but
Frank
one
and
of them
Freddy.
was
There's a joke
Frank and
there. It's
Freddie.
Frank
Yeah,
and Freddy.
Frank and
because
Freddy,
they turn into the monster.
Yeah, there we go. Of course it is. But what I love about it is that they are like idiots, and that's what I love about it. But once again, like you were saying earlier, what's clever about this movie is that it's not like fucking like the Three Stooges. You know, it's not like Laurel and Hardy. They're not like donking each other on the head with like hammers and stuff. You know, like they are idiots. But also, it's so fun to enjoy like what they're doing with each other. Like they just have that relationship. Like everybody in this movie has such a great relationship on screen that you sort of hope that it carried on off screen. But even if it is just on screen, everybody's so good. But you're introduced to Frank and Freddie. One of them, I can't remember who it is, but or who's who. But the younger one of them is sort of there for a job interview. I think he is, isn't he? And
it's Freddie.
He's trying to get a job. Freddie, that's it. And he was also in Jason Lives. I think he was in Jason Lives, wasn't he? He ended up.
He's in Jason Lives. He's in a bunch of Jason movies if you count the fan films, but he does that after this. So
when he's a really old man. But yeah, he took over from Corey Feldman's character, didn't he? I think in Jason Live.
Yep.
Jason.
But yeah, so yeah. Yeah, but yeah. So you're introduced to those guys, and I love these characters straight away because they've got such good chemistry. They're both fucking morons. It works really, really well. Obviously, as I said, Freddie's after the job, and then quite soon after this, already then we're introduced to the punk rock kids of the movies. Obviously, you've got Trash, you've got names like Suicide, you've got Chuck. What a fucking punk rock name Chuck is. Also, the world's sweatiest man. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but when you're watching
everyone is so sweaty in this movie.
Everybody's so sweaty, but he's like, I think it must have been like the fact that he had like this sort of woolen sort of suit on or something like that they had. That's probably the only thing I can say is either that or he's absolutely coked off his mind because he is
probably a little bit of both.
Could be that too.
The 80s. It was the 80s, so he could have been. But yeah, he was so fucking sweaty. Literally in my notes, he's like, Chuck, why is he so sweaty? But yeah, so you got all these like punk rock kids and everything like that. And as I said, you're introduced to a completely different contrasting characters. You know, you've got like these like proper worker guys, you know what I mean? Somebody trying to get a job. And then you've got all these like people who are, you know, against the fucking work side of it. You know, these punk rock kids who are like, fuck work, fuck everything. You know, one of them's called Suicide. Also, you know, like he has a little bit of a hissy fit during it as well. But yeah, I do love the complete different contrast of the two different types of characters we're introduced to straight away. And it does make it really fun because you've got these idiots workers, but then you've got these kids that love great music. But then we are introduced to Kaluga, whatever his fucking name is. Is it Clue? It can't be that. It can't be
Clue. Let's call him. I like Clue.
Clue from
Let's go with that.
We called him Clue. Yeah, that's it. But this guy as well, he's like, what is he? Is he like from the police? Is he, or is he
the
like
owner of the warehouse?
He's the owner of the medical supply place.
That's right. Yeah, this is why I should write notes.
But the boss.
He is the boss. That's right. Yeah. So he's the boss. And once again, he's another character gets put into the mix. And then I love his character as well because they're all like trying to figure out, like, obviously things start happening because obviously, as we know, Frank and Freddie, being the idiots that they are, they release this gas. And then this gas. But what I love about that moment is we haven't got the title card or anything at that point. What I love about this movie is that when you're younger, you take away different points to this movie as to when you're older. And it's one of those movies that over time, it does get better because you get to like sort of almost watch it with different eyes as an adult because we've seen it so many times throughout the years where when you first watch it, you're like, Linnea Quigley's completely starkers. You've got these idiots, you've got zombies, you've got great practical effects and so on, which we'll get into. But as you get older, then you start like going like, and you've seen so many movies, you start understanding like the structuring of movies and the way that they are and what makes it creative and what makes it unpredictable and stuff. And Return of the Living Dead, like as I said, like you get all this stuff before even the credits happen, even the titles happen, and when that happens in a movie, you go, oh, okay, so the people that are making this actually want to fucking make this movie. Like the people making this movie actually love the idea, the concept, story, and what they want to do with this. And there's actual talent rather than just going, Return of the Living Dead at the start. We've already had this, this fucking screen at the start, this title screen that's, awesome. And then we get all this gas that's released everywhere, and then we get that cool sort of is it like this sort of synth score sort of thing going on with the Return of the Living Dead music, and then then that's when the movie sort of starts, and we're already into it. So I really love the fact that you can still over time pick up on things where you're like, oh, okay, they are making an actual movie. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They have such a short, they take such a short window of time and build such camaraderie between Freddie and Frank and even Bert to some extent,
Yeah.
that by the time the gas comes out, like, you feel like you are just another, like a participant or like an observer watching. I guess that's the exact opposite, but you get to see this whole relationship form. And like Freddie, it's his first day on the job, but they build such camaraderie in such a short time that it makes you invested in those characters specifically, and then the punks separately, but they're all connected. And like you said, like, I don't think if I would have watched this the first time, I would have been like, yeah, man, these guys, they jive. But being older and watching it again and having, like you said, so much like movie watching under your belt, you're like, oh yeah, they really set the story up. And we'll get into it, I'm sure, but like, even the way that they explain how the zombies proliferate and how, to some extent, and how this whole thing kind of spreads out from the warehouse is really genius when you sit and like look at it with a 30,000 foot view and be like, oh yeah, they put a lot of time. There's a lot of revisions. Dan O'Bannon did a killer job on the script to be able to get all this stuff to fit together.
Yeah, and it almost is like, so there's like a complexity to it, but it's also not like so complex that you're like, I don't understand it. But then also you start thinking to yourself, is this one of the best ideas or concepts, or the way that it's structured? Is this one of the best ways that it's been put into film as the zombie movie? Whether it's zombie infection, so on like that. I think there's so much creativity from the get-go of this movie, and the uniqueness of this movie as well, as I said, from the get-go, that already you're like, and we get into it all as well, because it'd be interesting to know whether this is your favorite. I know it's one of your favorites, but I'd be interested to know like how highly you regard this in regards to other zombie movies, which would be interesting to know. But for me, like, every time from the second I start watching this, I'm like, I don't know, like, there's so much. This film is so different to what I feel so many other zombie movies are, but it's still taking those ideas and those core concepts, but playing with them in a completely different way. But it's so exciting. Like, it makes it exciting. Like, it felt like zombie movies got to a point where they felt just dead. You know what I mean? And this breathes so much fresh life into it.
Literally.
Well, I think the thing that they do really well with this, as we're talking about how they introduce the characters and the cast and all that, is, with the exception of Brian Peck, who we didn't know we hated until way after this movie came out, and it's not his character that makes me say this. There's no one in this movie that you're just waiting for them to get theirs. Like,
Yes.
they're all likable to an extent. You don't feel bad when they get theirs, whichever ones do. But there's no character that's like, now when you have a horror movie and they're filling out the cast or the body count, there's always like one or two people that you're like, I fucking hate this guy and I can't wait for him to just get like annihilated in the gnarliest way possible. There's
That's
no
the
one like
asshole.
this. What's that?
That's the
They're just
asshole. Kill him, please.
Yeah, exactly.
And they write
There's
the
no
characters
one.
that way.
Yeah, there's no one written like that in this movie at all. Everyone is, the punk kids all seem like a believable friend group. The Freddie being the new guy at work, and Bert and Frank's like relationship is believable. Even like Bert and Ernie's like relationship, I love that you get to say it that way too. It's a very realistic and believable storyline, and even when
yeah.
we get introduced to Ernie, it doesn't take very long for him to just jump on board and try to help his friend of 25 years out. Like, in this crazy situation where he's literally asking him to commit multiple felonies, he's like, well, okay. He's pretty quick to go along with it. So it's a really, if anything, aside from being, it's a masterclass in showing you how to make effective characters that are likable without drawing it out for like 2 hours of just padded character development. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things for movies to do, because when we watch a movie, we are dropped into a moment in time with those people, but we're still supposed to believe that they existed before what the movie is. And that is one of the hardest things to do, because that's, like I said earlier on, that's what makes it so difficult, because so many modern movies, you almost feel like those characters were born for that movie, and that's the purpose of them, just to be a character for that movie. But everybody in this movie, you genuinely feel like, like you said, like Bert and Ernie, they have this relationship, but it feels like there is that history of their relationship. It doesn't feel like it's made for the movie, and it's like you said, all these punk kids, punk rock kids and everything, it feels like there is the history of their friendship. You feel that, like, when one of them dies, you feel that the other one is going to be so fucked because the other one dies. You know what I mean?
You feel like they genuinely give a shit about their like arc. You feel like when someone dies, they are genuinely upset. They're just in a situation where they can't properly grieve because they're going to get fucked up too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, it's so difficult to make a movie feel lived in, and that's where this movie really, really succeeds. And this is why I always say that now, like, obviously after seeing this film later on, a bit later on in life, now it's one of those movies that become an example for me to say to people, if you want to create a world that feels pre-existing, if you want to make a world in a movie and characters and an environment that feels like it existed before what you're watching, this is a really, really good example. And I'm talking about anybody that's trying to write movies, and write characters, or like, people are looking at trying to figure out how they make an ensemble characters, and put them on screen so they don't feel like they're just put there. I genuinely feel that this is a very good example. I think it's one of the best examples out there to give when it comes to making a movie that doesn't feel it's just a movie that happened at that time. It is, everything happened before in their lives, and it led to what happens in this movie. And then obviously things go absolutely fucking tits up. But after but talking about tits up, we get introduced to obviously, where I'm going with this, but obviously we're introduced, they release this gas, and then obviously as this gas is getting put up into the air, going out the wherever it's happening and stuff, we obviously get Linnea Quigley doing one of the most iconic scenes. I would say it is one of the most iconic scenes from 80s horror cinema history. One thing that obviously helps puberty, and one of the things, as John has said, it's one of the things that you never sort of get bored of. I mean,
definitely don't get bored of it.
No, you don't get bored of it. I mean, yes, it is mental, because now the thing is when you're younger, as we've already said, you look at things a lot different as to when you're older. So now when I'm watching this, I feel so bad for Linnea Quigley, because I'm like, that poor girl, like that poor woman at that time was absolutely fucking starkers, walking around in this shit, they've got the rain, everything like that, and she's absolutely obviously she's getting paid to do it, but she's the only one that's there getting absolutely completely naked. So now I'm like, I feel so sorry for her. Back then when I was younger, I was just like, yes, this is like the greatest thing I've ever fucking seen.
She's pretty open about talking about that scene though, and aside from what they had to do to her crotch for that scene, she seems like she's pretty comfortable with the whole thing. Like, she didn't like
Well, she
the
did it enough
prosthetic that
afterwards.
ended up. Well, she did first with hair, and they said they couldn't do that. Then they shaved it and realized, like, oh, well, that kind of exposes everything. So they basically made like a prosthetic that turned her into essentially a Barbie doll for it.
Right.
And again, depending on which cut of the movie you find, there are cuts where you can find the, like, you could see everything scene with it. But
Is that the
I mean,
pervert cut?
The John
yeah,
cut.
well, I have it plays on a loop in my head constantly. But
After Garfield.
yeah, right between them. It's what the commercials are. But anyway, she's never, like, any interview I've heard with her, she's never said like that was the nudity part of it was the uncomfortable part. It was just the prosthetic part that was fucked up. So, for better or worse, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or worse. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't know, if it's better or acting in that kind of role. Didn't seem like she had a bad time with it. So,
well, that's good to hear, because obviously you don't want to hear some fucking dirty, pervy horror
it's
stories
kind
from
of like
set.
what you hear about when Barbara Crampton talks about the end scene in Reanimator. Like, everyone acts like that's such a, like, slight against her. She's always like, I was perfectly comfortable the whole time. So I
Yeah,
don't know. So,
yeah, that's it. As comfortable as you can be in absolutely
mm.
naked thing. But obviously, it creates an iconic scene. So we got that out of it at least, as well as other things, mostly boners. But like, you get like, but obviously, it's such a great scene and it's truly iconic. And obviously, I feel that it is brought up definitely in like modern day as well. I see a lot of it now, of that scene of her, like the memes and stuff. Now we live in this time of memes and shit like that. You know, you have the Linnea quickly dancing and stuff like that. So it's still in everyday modern day 2025 pop culture, so to speak. So that's always a great thing. But obviously we're introduced as well to Ernie, as you said as well. Ernie is like a coroner, mortician, whatever he is. He's there in his, is it a church or something like that? I think it's because you guys have it so different to what we have over here.
It's a
I
funeral home.
Yeah, that's it, like a funeral home.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's doing everything he is with the previous dead person, but they come in with a it's like a fucking black bag, like just a bag, like a garbage bag of just bodies, of limbs and stuff like that. And once again, we're introduced to another great character of the movie, Ernie. He's so great in it. You know, as I said, he's got a gun, but once again, their chemistry, and their camaraderie is all like it's so go on.
I just love.
Ernie is
He's
such a
so
great
great. He's
character.
got
He
a
has a
gun.
gun.
Yeah, well, yeah. I suppose I should have probably phrased that in a different way.
That quote should have been on the poster.
Yes, on the box.
He's
Ernie's
great.
so
He's
great.
got a
He's
gun.
got a gun.
That's it. We're just him in the James Bond pose on the front cover. But yeah,
I love that
Ernie's
when we're introduced to Ernie, the first thing he does is pull a gun on Bert. So
yeah, that's it. Like he probably shouldn't have a gun, but I'm assuming that he's got one because just in case like the dead do arise. I don't know. I'm guessing so, but
because he's an American, that's why he's got one. So
I think it's because
well, yeah.
it's in like a tough part of town.
Oh, really?
and they
Oh, okay,
also
yeah.
explain that he's working late and he's by himself, so whatever.
Right, okay, yeah, you guys are understanding it a lot better than what I just thought. He was some guy who thought he
It's
was a
America.
fucking cowboy.
That's what we do
Yeah,
here.
an American working late having a pistol is not surprising at all. So
That's it. But so we're introduced with him. They obviously, and this is where obviously the form itself, the movie itself, the form of what the movie is to be is starting to take shape. We know that this gas is now sort of being released. We've got it turns into, once again, I think is such a really clever creative idea where it's all starting to become like an acid, a chemical rain, so to speak. You've got them in the car, you've got poor old naked,
very 80s idea.
Yeah, very 80s idea. Linnea Quigley, she's getting it all over her because all the bastards, even though they're her friends, won't let her have any clothes whatsoever. Because obviously they're getting this acid rain put on and stuff. And once again, it just becomes about this uniqueness, this creativity that I absolutely love about this movie. Like, it's just such a fun ride throughout. And then they just implementing these really cool like ideas and little cool concepts of like how they're going to get from A to B and so on like that. But the way they're getting from A to B and B to C is so unique, like unlike so many other zombie movies and so like unlike so much different to other movies in general. It's just such an exciting movie. As it goes through, it just continues to like build upon how exciting, but then they just end up shoving something else in there that you don't see because it's so unpredictable that you start getting, the things that happen a bit later on as well. But yeah, you've got them. You've got a bit as well where obviously Ernie does, because obviously they don't really know what they've got. Ernie puts that all the limbs and stuff into the furnace, and obviously that releases all the gas and everything like that.
Is this the first movie where, or the first of the ones that you can think of, where the parts, the individual body parts are still animated after being separated from like the main body, the head, essentially?
Apart from the Evil
I
Dead,
don't
'cause
think
that's
so,
like a
but
hand.
yeah, I don't think so, but I can't think of an example. I feel like I've seen hands for sure moving around after they got lopped
Yeah,
off or something.
the
That
only
was
thing that I can
pre-VHS.
think of is the Evil Dead with just a hand. But I also like the fact that how good they still look. Like you can tell that they're a bit rubbery and stuff, but the way that they're moving, the way that it is, the way they're reacting to it, like it really sells it really, really well.
It's also one of those things that this movie is, it's not like a detractor, but it's one of those things you don't notice it until you're watching it in HD. Like when you were watching a VHS cut, it's fine. It's once you like upscale it and all that, that's a slight victim of that. You can see it more.
And obviously what's great is that from this point, everything gets elevated as well, because now Ernie is like sort of released it even further, like through the furnace and stuff, obviously without him knowing. This is now
the
like
original
more
elevated
people.
horror.
So. Yeah, that's it. But now so many more people are getting infected. This is where it starts going out to the graveyard and everything like that. And then we do get the living dead. And also as well, at this point as well, there's shit happening with Frank and Freddy because they're fucking dying. So then you've got like so much stuff happening at the time. You've got all these punk rockers and you're like, well, what's going to happen with these? You've got this core, the group of Frank and Freddy and Bert and Ernie and all the shit that's happening with them. Then we know that it's now getting released. So then now all the living dead are coming up from the graves and everything like that. And you're like, shit, like this is getting fucking wild. And also, from this point onwards, we get another part of the iconography of what Return of the Living Dead is, which is obviously Tarman. Tarman is the fucking coolest.
Sean does not like Tarman. So.
Oh, really?
I like him a lot, but he's something that's like terrified me from the first time I saw this, because the way that it's an actor, but the way that he moves, his movement, he's so animated, it almost feels like you wonder how they actually made this character like come to life on screen. And it's like even the mask or whatever is on the person's head, the costume, it's like so small that it's almost, the way it appears, it almost appears skull sized. So you look at him and you're like, it's just unsettling enough for me. I just look at him like, oh man, that's just like, how did they do that? It's terrifying when you first see him and he's just like, flopping around like this cartoon character. And I love him as a character. And I'm enthralled with how they did it, but he's terrifying for me at the same time.
And he's so fucking goopy as well. Like, I mean, literally he's Tarman for a reason, but he's so fucking goopy. Like,
it's one of the things that's great about him is this movie, like, this isn't really a negative. This is just a budgetary thing, I'm sure. Like, there's not a lot of consistency with how the zombies look in this movie. Like, you have everything from Tarman to there's a lot of scenes where guys just look like they kind of rolled around in the mud and went with it. But it somehow works. And you never really question, like, I mean, I guess you could explain away Tarman based off where he came from, but like you never really questioned, for example, why like the little guy zombie that's missing his legs and chases Ernie back in the the funeral home, why he looks so like weird and gnarly in comparison to some of the guys that will just go through a window that, like I said, literally look like they just got dirty and they're not that dead, So it's got a really weird mix of looks to it. So
it's a different like length of like I the only way that I try and justify it is like it's the different lengths of decomposition as they return from the graves. Like you might have had one that died like last Tuesday, but then you've got the ones that were like 1964 or something like that. But it's what I love about this is one, Tarman is such an iconic
Freddy
character. But I love the fact that like how he looks. I think and you're exactly right, Sean. Like he's amazing. The prosthetic work that they did on him to not make him look like as if it was somebody that was just wearing prosthetics. Like it does look like that is a real living, breathing thing, not necessarily somebody that's wearing a costume going around. And the way that it moves, or the way that the mouth moves, on Tarman himself. But I love the fact that he's just after brains, which always is fucking great. Like the fact that he's literally got shouting out brains, the way that he moves, the way that they go after him, and then that makes you once again get the sense of like the old school, like it just at that moment with Tarman when he's going after these people, and he's slow, he's not quick. Then you get reminded of like the zombie movies that came before, and it's almost very reminiscent of those times where you're like, it's still putting, or even though it's trying to create something new, it's still remembering the things that came before it, and it's really good. It does a really good job at putting them together. But also, what I love about this is that the zombies aren't thick as shit. That's one of the other things that I love about this movie. Like, obviously, zombies, as we know, most of the time they're just fucking idiots. But there's literally a moment where like one of the zombies gets on like the police radio, and like
It's amazing.
more. What's he say? Send more.
Well, the first time it's send more paramedics.
Yeah.
Second time it's send more cops. But I love that the zombies will go as far to cosplay as a cop and like wave in the police before they just ambush the shit out of them. Like,
yeah,
and
once
that's
again,
one of the
it's
things
great.
this movie does. Well, that's one of the things this movie does great because it's very much so escalating everything in this movie. Where in most horror movies, you should be feeling the tension just ratchet up as the story goes crazier and crazier. In this horror movie, it somehow gets more ridiculous and more comical, but still stays kind of relatively grounded for considering what the situation is. It works really well. So
Yeah, you're right, and like I said, it's another like thing that like takes it to that next level in this movie. If you're once again, if you're just saying zombie movies can literally be these people, they're zombies, they're going after these people to kill them. That can just be the basic of the information of what the movie is, and we follow the people on that journey. But the fact that they're just, they're going like, oh, it's this gas, and then this gas is released, but then it does this to Freddie and Frank, and we're on that journey where we're watching them essentially die and then become zombies. The fact that the zombies are clever, that but yet you still got this old school, sort of factor to them as well, where they're not running around, they're still pretty slow. Um, Everything is so well thought out and so creative in this movie that it is a movie that honestly, even though it is a product of its time, it still feels timeless because of the creativity. The creativity is timeless in this movie. It's still to this day, every time I watch it, I'm like, what a great decision that was to do that. What a fantastic idea or concept to do that. And then you go, what other zombies are doing this? What other sort of movies are doing this? Whether it was back then, whether it's even now, you know what I mean? Like even now, it doesn't feel like that many sort of movies are taking these sort of risks creatively, especially when you're essentially messing with a formula that's already been created and been successful for so many years. It's so interesting and also impressive.
Romero does it. Romero does it too. He does it in Day of the Dead with Bub and him learning how to do stuff, which I don't think these movies like you can't really say. I don't think either one stole from the other for that because they came out so close together when they released. But he really tries to do it in Land of the Dead. Like they really try to push like they're not so stupid in that. And that movie's a whole different conversation for a different day. But I don't think it works as well as it does in this movie or Day of the Dead for that matter.
Yeah, for sure. It feels like I don't know.
Forced.
Yeah, the Land of the Dead it just seems like I've run out of ideas. I don't really love that movie. We won't get into that, but
is that the one with the van where they make the van?
Yeah,
I can't fucking remember.
And
yeah,
that's the John Leguizamo one and the Dennis Hopper one.
That's it.
Yeah,
that was like the coming into like the modern day of what like the zombie horror.
It kind of felt like, and I don't know that this is the case, but it kind of felt like George Romero said, "I really need a paycheck," and this is what happened. So
basically. Yeah, and also, it sort of felt like because that was what was sort of like going to be the thing that was going to make money. Yeah, you're exactly right. He probably looked at that and said, "Well, if this is going to make money, I'm going to make money, and I might as well fucking do that because I ain't going to make anything sitting on my ass." So, but also what I love about this moment as well is they do start, obviously all these zombies, they start breaking into the funeral home with Ernie and all these characters. But then we get another surprise. Something else that's unpredictable is we get this half of a zombie that they end up putting obviously on his like table that he does with all the dead bodies and stuff like that. But that is fucking wild because the practical effect on this are so fucking good that even the other day when I was doing it for my prep, throughout this whole movie, the practical effects, like once again, it's another thing to this movie is that the practical effects are really fucking good in this movie. Like they don't look shit, they look cheap.
I
But this
love
one, go on.
one of the things that's like I always notice it. It's like this little touch as this puppet zombie is like twitching around and stuff. I love that there's spinal fluid leaking out of the spine and just getting spread around the table. It's such a little detail, but I can't think of another movie that has had anything remotely close to that kind of a detail with a zombie. I always like that part.
And that's the thing as well. Once again, it goes back to like what we were saying earlier. There's so much love in creating this movie that you could tell that the people making it truly wanted to do everything they can to create a movie that they can be proud of and hope that people will watch it and really enjoy it and it will last. Because like you're saying, it's the little moments like that or the creativity of the ideas and what they're putting in. But that whole scene where, and also, I don't know if you were the same as me, but that's actually like, it's quite a tough scene because, and once again, when you're a kid, you don't think of these things, but as you're an adult, and obviously you're getting closer to death, right? And like, you start thinking about
Sean's face
Jeez,
on that one's pretty good.
Yeah, that went deep. But that's the thing. But when I watch this movie, that moment, I actually do get really deep with it because because the prosthetics are so good, right? And because of the idea behind it is the fact that this is real, right? And what this thing is feeling, this is still a human, but it's zombified and it still has that form of intelligence like this movie depicts and so on. That
They
it's
give the
so
zombies
sad.
motivation that I don't think you ever really get anywhere else.
Yeah, and it's so sad that we are like essentially watching this thing that has the appetite for brains because brains is the thing that stops them from hurting. And like it's so sad. Like I find it really, really fucking like fucked up and sad when I'm watching this because I'm like, it's like it's once again it's like a depth to a film because like we've already said this is like a horror comedy, but yet that has those moments where it's like a proper like in-depth look at life, where you're like, oh, that's a really sad thing that even though this thing is just a fucking prosthetic on a table going like I need brains and stuff like that because it stops us from like it gets me fucking every time. It gets me more than like fucking like I mean the sad movies that you end up watching. It's just the Return of the Living Dead ends up making me feel sadder than most movies.
BP's at home watching the Notebook, like this is shit, and then puts on Return of the Living Dead to feel weepy.
I think I see a tear coming out of his eye now.
I am. I'm getting that little either that or I'm as sweaty as Chuck or whatever his fucking name is. But yeah, once again, it's another thing to it. Like it adds to the emotion of the story in regards to you're actually giving a story for the zombie. You're actually giving an idea, the concept for the zombies themselves. They're not just the living dead that are out to kill you and eat brains. There's a reason they're trying to eat brains. And it gives them, once again, we're introduced to like another character of the movie that's done so expertly that I absolutely love it. And it's another thing that happens. But from this point onwards, we're like, you start getting into the closing part of the movie now where things obviously are going absolutely tits up. Linnea Quigley's gone full like punk zombie person walking around naked with her like almost
Bum
Lost
doesn't
Boys
mind.
esque. No,
It's the most action that Bum's got like in his entire life.
yeah, it's probably true. It's probably true. Obviously, like Frank ends up burning himself alive because obviously they do become zombified and stuff, and they're presumed dead. Once again, like the more you think about it, the more you're like, how fucking like great of an idea is this? The fact that one, they're dying, we're watching them die, they don't know what the fuck's happening. You've got the paramedics that turn up and like, yeah, he's dead, but like he's living, and they ain't got a fucking clue. Like it's so fun. It's so creative. There's so many great ideas in this movie that it's endlessly enjoyable. And then like you can watch it again and then you'll find another thing that you just like, a little thing that you absolutely love. But yeah, Frank ends up burning himself alive, which once again is a fucked up moment because you're like, Jesus Christ, like what a horrible thing to have to do, but he does it.
But the
And then,
soundtrack makes it almost funny because of the
yes.
song that they're choosing to play while he's like, ending himself. So
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
you have these incredibly dark moments where they always find something to work in there to just kind of keep the like lightheartedness of this fucked up movie. So
yeah,
I don't remember. Is it an actual song or just part of the score?
it is. I don't remember which song it is,
It's
but
like
it is
Ring
an
of Fire.
actual song.
Ring of Fire.
I know. Basically, the only lyric you hear is the word "burn" and laughing. So
Say burn, burn, burn.
yeah,
Must be Ring of Fire.
close
Must be a
enough.
song with that word in it.
It has to be, or yeah, exactly. There's got to be a thing, but that would be the thing is that would be taking it so far that I'd be pissing myself laughing. But obviously, so you have that. We start closing it off. Obviously, the police they come, they basically do nothing because it's fucked.
They
Like
can't.
it's just actually thing. And then the movie basically. It's so fucked up the way that it ends because they call the colonel on the blower and he's the calmest man that you'll ever fucking speak to in the world. And you're like, well, what's going to happen here? Obviously, if you've seen it, you know what's going to happen. But if you've never seen this before, it is not the type of phone call that you're making to somewhere where this person's like, oh shit, we're going to have to nuke the fucking place. Like it's the most calm phone call that's ever been made for nuking. And then obviously, they do it and it doesn't necessarily work. Although we do get one of the only cheap parts of the movie, which is where the ending of the movie, I don't know if it's different versions and so on, but the ending of the movie of the thing rising again is the same thing that happened earlier on. It's like the same footage. I don't know if that's the same for you guys, but
You know who makes
one-to-one.
that call though, right? BP,
Who?
you know who makes that call, right?
Who?
Well, last time we saw him, he was in Halloween 3 being a bum. So
Of course, yeah. Of course it was. How did I not fucking figure that out? What an absolute douche.
I didn't know.
Oh right, there we go. Well, there we go. But now now we know. But yeah, it's mad that how calm that colonel is on that phone call, and then obviously he's just there to to basically nuke the town and. But it obviously doesn't end. It's a horror film. We know that it's not going to end the way that they want it to, but it's still.
no, I actually kind of like that they go this abrupt ending with it because, to be honest with you, it doesn't get to this point. But if they had just gone, we'll say 5 to 10 minutes longer with everything going nuts, it almost would get to the point where it would start to wear thin. So it takes a really hard cut and. To be honest, like I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of military plan out there for this exact situation. Like, no, we're just gonna nuke Kentucky. That's what's gonna happen. Like, not just
ring
for
up and they're
zombies,
like,
but for. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of plans for certain catastrophic events that us regular humans don't even want to know about. So the idea that they're just nuking a city doesn't totally shock me. And like I said, I think it's played well because the movie does start to get to a point where it's like, all right, let's wrap this shit up. And the movie feels it. It says, yeah, let's wrap this shit up, and does it in the most atomic way possible. So
yeah. And I love the fact that, like we've said throughout, what's great is that even this ending, there's so much in this movie, but it never feels too much. That's what's so fucking great about this movie. Obviously, soundtrack wise, it's got one of the fucking coolest soundtracks ever. It's just such a great soundtrack. It's something that I don't know how many songs from this. I've got like a Halloween playlist that is basically all, obviously Halloween music, but a lot of it is music from, one or two songs from movies. And then people always like, oh, what horror film is this from? And I'm like, oh, it's from this one. And I have no idea how many songs I've got on it now, but there must be 3 or 4, if not more, from this soundtrack on my playlist. So it's such a great. I mean, the score itself is good. It's got a very memorable score soundtrack, like a proper 80s score soundtrack.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack from the artists themselves is so great. and it just works. But it adds to, once again, the other cool thing about this is that it does feel, even though it does feel timeless, it does feel very 80s at the same time. And I mean, I'm a big lover of anything that's the 80s and the 80s horror and stuff. So when you get taken back to that nostalgic time, so to speak, with that type of music as well, that's always fun, because that you're like, I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of this. Like, it doesn't matter even if the movie's like really shit, you're still like, yeah, the music's really fucking good. But it just works in every example that you can give. This movie works. Is there, before we go into like production and stuff, is there anything that you like have nitpicks about? Like, is there anything you don't really like about it?
Yeah, I don't understand. There's a few things. So like, you mentioned the I guess not even a zombie, the skeleton that pops up at the end and pops up in the middle. I don't really mind that they reuse the exact footage from earlier in the movie, like even the camera going through the graveyard, like between the tombstones and stuff, and then this thing. The person died in like 1896. How do they still have eyeballs? Like, how do you reanimate a skeleton that has no musculature, no anatomy? It's just literally bones, but has eyeballs, and its mouth opens somehow. Like, I would think that would just fall apart. So that's that. The other big thing is, like, to me, John kind of pointed it out with the special effects. It's kind of inconsistent, or I'm sorry, the makeup is inconsistent. Like John said, you have something like Tarman that's amazing. It's like, you still wonder how that all came together. And then they have other parts in the chapel when the zombies are trying to break in, and there's literally, I could take a screenshot. There is a guy that looks like he's just wearing a black ski mask with like the nose cut out, and his nose is sticking through, and he just has dirt on him, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it's just a dude in a ski mask.
I think as you said that, I was like, oh shit, I fucking remember that now. Yeah.
And the last like real nitpick, and it's not even that important because it's kind of implied, is, for example, Linnea Quigley turns into this ghoulish kind of zombie, but they don't really ever get into what turns a person. Like Scuzz gets bit on his head, and I don't think
I was
he ever
about to go there.
turns.
Yeah. He doesn't, and Suicide doesn't either, and he gets
Right.
bit way earlier in the movie. So if it's like a
time thing,
in theory, a time thing,
yeah,
Suicide should have turned before everyone except Linnea Quigley, in theory. So
right.
And Linnea, yeah. So I mean, there's
they have to do like an
with that.
incantation or something around. Enough zombies
Yeah.
have to surround you, and they draw a seance circle or something, and you turn into I don't know exactly how it happens. You don't need to really be. It doesn't need to be explained to you, but it's just one of those things where it's like, it'd be kind of cool if they went into not even what the process was. Like, Frank and Freddy turn because they are exposed to the gas. That's that's like the whatever the thing. I can't even think of the word.
Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens to them. But everybody else is, the ashes, the chemical rains down on them from the ash. Okay, I get that. But these other tertiary people that just kind of, sometimes they change, sometimes they don't. Why? Like, why do they do that? That's just a nitpick. It doesn't like take anything away from the story. It's just a question that I would have watching this. Like every other zombie movie, it's like, oh, you get bitten, and then there's a process, there's a amount of time that passes, and eventually it just, the virus or whatever takes over, and then you're a zombie. But this movie is just like these specific people, because it doesn't even advance the story. It's just like, oh, it's a cool thing for this naked lady to turn into a zombie, and she takes over other people.
The other thing with her, as far as when she becomes a zombie, her characteristics, specifically in her face, change so much compared to what the other zombies do. Like, she doesn't just, like, if she stayed with what she looks like when she's walking in that alley and like goes in after the bum, okay, fine. But then they have the scene where she takes the police chief out and her jaw like unhinges to this weird monster thing. And then there's the still shot when they drop the bomb and they show her sitting there looking up at the sky, and she looks like some dude in a red wig that happens to have tits. So like, whatever the zombieism is doing to her character specifically seems to be pretty radically different from everyone else. And she's also the only zombie that's like this pale, like painted white color, as opposed to being, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because she's the only naked zombie through the whole thing, but like, she's not like all dirty and scuzzy and whatever. It's almost like she's a very different type of infected zombie creature than the rest of them. So
Yeah, she's like the alpha or something.
right.
It's almost as
like
if
that.
they were like, let's tick every fucking box. Like, they were like, that's pretty much how it's sort of like we need a deadite zombie. We need, we need like
And again,
the zombie that's
these
on the
are
table and stuff.
at the end of the day, these are just nitpick. Like none of this
Yeah.
takes anything away from the movie. Like this is just stuff. If you're looking at it like hyper critically, most of these things are really just like, fuck it, whatever. Like this movie's too fun for me to really be upset about this.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think like you're exactly right. So as soon as you end up saying like having a form of critique on anything on a film, then that's it. Like you're the devil, or basically it means that it's a shit movie. But it's not. You've got to have a critique of film, and you've got to have little moments that you like or don't like. Yeah, otherwise every film would be fucking like the most perfect film that's ever been made, and there's too many shit ones for that to happen. So, like that's
we
the
wouldn't
thing.
have a
But
show
yeah,
if they were all perfect.
well,
It's
yeah,
true.
exactly. I mean, I would because I only really talk about like the good movies.
We do not.
Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
We
your
talk
good
about
movies.
Extra.
Yeah, we talk about good
Oh yeah,
movies
very
like
true. Yeah,
Extra
X-ray.
and
I know every
Nostrum
day I
Picture.
try and I try and forget that. But you know what? Funnily enough, recently I have been very tempted to buy it. I don't know why, but I've been very tempted to buy Extra just because
It's a
like
goddamn masterpiece.
It's
well,
English.
because of our episode, purely because of our episode, it makes me want to watch it more because I'm like, the episode we did get together, I had so much fun talking about it that it makes me like the movie more because of how much fun we had talking about it.
You're gonna go
Anybody
find
out there
like
that,
some rare 4K release of this and put it
Gold
into like
box.
that conversation. You're gonna be like, God, this movie sucks, but that
yeah,
conversation was fun. I should
well,
just
that was,
listen to the episode again. So
yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna do, but but I'm trying to talk myself out of it. I'll try and talk myself out of it. But anyway, production info. We're going to go into that, and then we go into sort of our overall thoughts on the movie a little bit. But production info wise, and I'm sure like you guys know more than what I've got anyway. But some of the zombie extras were paid bonus to eat real calf brains in the film. I don't mean calf
I
muscle.
thought you were
I
gonna
mean
say human
calf.
flesh,
Yeah, human flesh, but calf, like a baby
baby
cow.
cow.
I think that's what it is. Dan O'Bannon ate some raw calf brain. I can't even say word brains first in front of them to show that he wouldn't ask them to do anything he wasn't willing to do himself. I mean, there's better ways to do it. Like, yeah, I don't know
If you
if you
watch
need
that
to.
documentary, you're gonna learn that Dan O'Bannon was kind of a piece of shit to most of the actors on this movie. Now,
All
in
right.
fairness to him, in fairness to him, like I don't remember if it's in that documentary or somewhere else. There's video of him way later on, like before he died, admitting that he was a piece of shit and like being seemingly sincere that he felt bad what he put everyone through on this movie. But like Clu Gallagher has like he's one of the funniest. But he's like, I thought that guy was a fucking dumbass. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. I didn't think this was even going to turn into a functional movie. Like, so he was not a popular guy on set of this film.
I can't wait till
And
I'm old
maybe
enough
that's why
to
the
turn around and
characters maybe that's why the characters work. They're doing it like they're teamed up in spite of him. I don't know.
maybe, yeah. I can't wait till I'm old enough to like relinquish any acceptance or just to accept that I was a fucking dickhead my whole life.
Yeah.
So then it makes it all right. You know what I mean? Like
Oh.
so many people do it. Like everybody, I just can't wait to be on my deathbed and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I was such a twat, and then die. But then everybody's just like, well, it's too fucking late now. You spent like 99 years doing it, and I'll be the lucky fucker that doesn't make it to 100. But yeah, you can get away with anything as long as you apologise for it. The part of Bert was originally offered to Leslie Nielsen, who wanted too much money. No surprise. Then offered it to Robert Webber, who hated the script. They then tried Scott Brady, who was too sick and actually died a year later. They finally went with Clu. I just called him Clu. Right before the first day of filming. So literally the first day of filming, they got him. You guys probably know all this because you've seen the documentary, but But
Can you imagine what this movie would be like if Leslie Nielsen was the lead? Like, I feel like it's to be a whole different movie.
Yeah, like it
So,
would just
I
be
mean,
Naked Gun, wouldn't it? With
well,
zombies,
he did Creep Show, and he's kind of
of course.
creepy in that. But like, I don't know. I can't. Maybe it's because this is one of those movies that like I love all the characters so much, and I love the actors that are in them because of it, with the exception of Brian Peck. Like maybe it's one of those like this is so right where I want it to be. Like it's hard to picture someone else with it, but um Leslie Nielsen, it be like all of a sudden, let's put Steven Seagal in there too. Why not? Like, let's really throw a
yeah,
wrench
why
in it.
not?
So,
Yeah. Sean's just like, why not? Yeah, but I also, you're
again,
exactly right,
I'd be
because
all for a Steven Seagal zombie movie, but not this one. So
how the fuck has there been? Has there
no, I
been,
don't think
or
he
is
has any horror
Kinda.
movies.
He did,
So
yeah.
there has?
He did a really crappy. I watched it
Because
a couple of years ago. I can't
right.
remember what it's
I
called,
was
but
going to say that would be great, but obviously you're saying it's not, so I don't have to worry about
I think
watching
it's
it.
depends
more
how you
about like
define great.
vampires and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, really? I
Depends on
can
your
imagine.
definition of great. So
Yeah, but you're right. Like with the whole Leslie Nelson thing, really quickly, like the thing that makes this movie work is that everybody is their individual person, but they work with each other really well. You would just be having Leslie Nielsen above everyone else if he was in it, or anybody that's of a name that's, you know, like a bigger star. It becomes that star and everybody else. Whereas this movie, it's everybody, and everybody is working together, and everybody's creating what we see, and that's why it fucking works. The scene where Tina falls through a broken step was done without Beverly Randolph's knowledge it was going to be done. Director Dan O'Bannon, yeah, he is a dick, isn't he? Had a full step put in while she was.
so Clu Gallagher threatened to beat the fuck out of him for that too.
Oh, really?
Like he went the fuck off on him about it, and that's in the documentary also. So what's her face? She tells the story pretty well. So
see, this is why I need to watch this documentary, because it's probably telling you guys everything you know more than what I fucking do. The other thing, the last thing that I've got is Toby Hooper, or as I called for many years, Tobe Hooper, was originally slated to direct, and it was supposed to be filmed in 3D. So that would have been fucking weird. Although I'm not gonna I mean, it obviously would have been a completely different movie, but I do like Toby Hooper as a Hooper. Toby Hooper as a Hooper. He's a great basketball player. Toby Hooper as a director, I do like him anyway. So I would have still liked to have seen him do a zombie sort of movie like this. It would
I
have
could
been
see him doing this kind of movie like this. I don't feel like that's. I don't know if you cast a director, but I don't feel like that would be miscast for him doing this kind of movie.
Yeah, maybe not in 3D, because that mostly is always shit.
Well, that was the
flying
the
tits
time.
on screen
So,
in 3D, not gonna,
yeah.
that might be all right.
I mean, I'm guilty of having a soft spot for shitty 80s 3D more than pretty much anyone I can think of. Like I champion Jaws 3D and all its like garbage as much as anyone else. This feels like there's just too much going on to effectively make it a 3D movie, at least at this time. But I'm glad they didn't go that way, but I would have watched it still. So
add 2
My
minutes to the
daughter,
runtime of this.
yeah,
Lots
exactly.
of
That what you did there looked better than most 3D movies I've ever seen in my life.
Knives or poles or whatever going
Yeah.
towards the camera, just for people that aren't watching.
My daughter has the best review for Jaws 3D, which was, it's a movie that is so bad it made me want to be sick. That's what she said about the movie. She was just like, this movie is so bad it made me want to be sick. So now that's my review for any movie that I watched that's bad. I'm like, it was so bad it made me want to be sick. So she's a great. One day when she's older, I'll get her on the show just to talk about Jaws 3D. She
Love
has
it.
a genuine hate for that fucking movie. She loves Jaws. Obviously, is her favorite film of all time. She loves Jaws 2. She doesn't love it. She just thinks it's okay. Like Jaws 2 is all right. Jaws Revenge, the fourth one, she always forgets it's ever been made, and she's like, "There's a fourth one." I'm like, "You fucking watched it like 4 times." I'm like, "It's Michael Caine with a plane," and she's like, "Oh yeah." But every time it comes to Jaws, even when she sees a picture, she's like, "No, fuck this shit! Like, it's the
It's
worst
funny you
thing I've
bring
ever
up
seen."
It's funny you bring up your daughter. One of my favorite reviews I ever heard was of Poltergeist. It was on Jordana's show. She had her daughter talking about Poltergeist, and she didn't really like. She liked the movie and all that, but she goes, "I don't understand the zoning laws in this town. Who the hell like permitted them to build this house? Like, your daughter is talking about zoning laws in a ghost movie. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing." So
I love how like we always have kids in our brains, like we're always the cleverest ones, right? But yet they
yeah,
always have this form of logicality that we never really think about when we're watching it. So when we ask about it, like when my daughter says, like we watched a sequel to something or whatever, and she was just like, "What's the point of making another one if you're not going to make it better than the first?" And I'm like, "She fucking gets it." Why doesn't Hollywood? So yeah, kids are great when it comes to reviewing movies. But that's what I should just do with the show. It makes my life a lot easier just to get reviewing movies. Um, so overall thoughts. We know obviously how much we do love this movie, obviously. But I like to have our sort of very quick overall thoughts on the movie. Whoever wants to go, John, go with yours. With your overall thoughts on the movie first. You can have a go.
I mean, surprised to no one, I absolutely love this movie. It's like, with the exception of Dawn of the Dead, my favorite in the subgenre. It's one of my favorite horror movies. It's been a fixture in my rotation ever since I found it, and it's one of the few movies I can say I don't have any genuine negatives about it. I have nitpicks, I can like pick apart little parts of it, but there's nothing about this movie that I feel like is a like straight up negative. So yeah, I love it. And if you haven't seen this movie, what the fuck are you doing listening at this point? We've been talking for an hour and a half now. You probably could have watched the movie and come back to this, and that's I mean, I can't recommend it enough.
Go on, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything to add to what John said. I
Cool.
think it's a really it's hard to say if it's my favorite. I think I do like Dawn of the Dead a little bit more, but it's like splitting hairs. You know, they're different movies, they're very different, and this one I really enjoy having that comedic angle on top of it. It doesn't take itself so serious. Like there are several things in Dawn of the Dead. I'll just use that as the comparison that there are little funny moments to that, you know, but I think this movie is almost second in like a zombie comedy horror type thing as Shaun of the Dead is. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it is serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get like both sides of the coin. So really just enjoy it. It's never it's never a labored viewing. Like sometimes there's some movies that you really like, but you can't sit through and watch it. You know, you're like, oh, I really like this movie, but I'm just not in the mood for this. This movie almost comes down to like I don't have to be in the mood to watch this movie because it's just a good movie. It's not there. You don't need the qualifier of like it's a good zombie movie, it's a good horror movie. It's just a good movie, and
Yeah.
low expectations for a lot of the audience that go into movies like this. They're just like, oh yeah, horror movie, whatever. But you can actually watch this and be like, oh, this is actually really good. The storytelling's really good. They plot out. I said it earlier, like way earlier in the show. The show goes, or I'm sorry, the movie goes from the gas spreads, they cut up the zombie, they burn the zombie, the ashes go up, it rains, that all those chemicals go into the ground. That's how it proliferates, and the water just keeps proliferating it out from that center, from that cemetery. And then at the end, when they love a dark ending, I'm an absolute sucker for a dark ending of a movie. This one has it in spades. And then they drop the bomb, and then that water just continues to circulate things outside of the range of the bomb, which, assuming that's how it gets to, like, you know, the next movie and so on, diminishing returns on the next few movies, although I do really have a soft spot for number two. But this is just a great movie overall. No qualifiers, just a good movie.
Yeah, you're exactly right, both of you, and you're exactly right in regards to it. When you do obviously like the podcast and stuff like that, especially if you're doing a horror podcast, like we're talking about horror movies, and that you're exactly right where this is a great horror movie, but it is just a very, very good movie that if obviously you can, if you can handle what horror has to offer, then this is just one of those movies that I think a lot of people will enjoy because of everything that the movie gives you outside of the fact that it's a horror and outside the fact that it's a zombie movie. It's everything else that we're introduced to, the characters, the practical effects, the music. I was thinking about this the other day when I was watching it, and quite recently, like over the last few months, and I've obviously done episodes, like we've done episodes about the original Dawn of the Dead. Now we've done Night of the Living Dead as well. And then obviously Return of the Living Dead. I might have missed some that we might have done as well. But I was trying to think when I was watching this afterwards, and I was just like, is this my favourite? And I was thinking obviously like about Zombie Flesh Eater as well. And I was like, that Zombie Flesh Eater is so good, but it's so dark and stuff. And there's obviously, it's not really a fun movie. The only thing that might be a bit fun about it is the fact that it's like, it is one of those movies that's pretty dated. But Zombie Flesh Eaters is one of those things where, like, still to this day, for me, like, it's one of the most beautiful technical cinematic movies that I've ever seen. Like, it's one of those movies that I watch and go, I take something away as a filmmaker from that movie. And there's a lot of really cool things in it, and it goes really fucking heavy on the horror. Like it's gnarly, that movie. Like, it's very violent, very visceral, and I love it. And then obviously Dawn of the Dead is what it is, and Night of the Living Dead is so integral to the iconography of horror as well. So then I start thinking to myself, like, can I think about a movie that was obviously 85, the movie that it is, of everything that's come before it and everything that's come after it? Do I think that this is my favorite zombie movie, if we're just saying in that sort of subgenre, And I genuinely think that it is, because every single time I watch this movie, I enjoy it. Every single time I finish watching it, I feel like I've got something new out of it. I absolutely, truly love the characters. I truly, truly love how they're put to screen and don't really stand out from one each other. They are all part of this journey we're watching. I truly love the constant creativity of the movie in regards to what you're watching, but also the creativity on a technical level as well. I love, from the structure of the story, like we even mentioned, like right at the start of the movie, where we don't even get the title card. Like, little things like that are things that make me love movies, is because that the people, and we've said it throughout, the people that make this movie, wanted to make this movie the best movie they could, and they wanted to make it last. And I think it is still to this day a movie that does continue to last. I mean, in this country now, it is a movie where, like I said, within the last sort of 5 or 10 years, we are now getting more horror is getting more involved, and we are getting more and more horror in this country, which is great, especially for like old horror fans like myself, who literally used to have to steal magazines. And then when the internet came around, I had one fucking website I could go to, upcominghorrormovies.com. That was my every single day. That's the website that I went to. And my computer was so slow, it would only load up one page. So I literally went on that, turned it on. I could go and do something for half an hour before it loaded. And then I would go and check down it, see what's happening, and then I would turn it off and go out and play. But like having that then I would have that horror, that website was what I had. But now,
that was
we
the
have
best
everything.
description I've heard in quite some time.
There we go. But now, obviously, everything's like at the tip of our fingers now. So like now, now anybody out there can go on a streaming service. Like over here, it's on Amazon. You can go to Amazon Prime or something, and you can watch Return of the Living Dead. Something that I didn't really get a chance to, and a lot of people in this country didn't get a chance to when we were younger. So now, because of streaming services and stuff like that, a lot of people in this country, is very good, because now we get the opportunity to see a lot of things we never got to see. Shudder obviously is a really good example of that, because that has a lot of the deep cut horrors that I never got to see when I was younger, that I always wanted to, and I would read about or look on my one web page. But I would look at that, and then I'd be like, right, I've never got to see it, and now we do. And Return of the Living Dead is one of those, I think, for a lot of people now. Like I said, it is a bit of a banned T-shirt at the moment, and I'm hoping these people are actually going to watch the movie. But if you do, and it is a product of its time, but it also continues its legacy now. And I think it's probably more popular now than it ever really has been, because of its place in pop culture. And a lot of that is obviously the marketing, with the great posters, the great look of the movie, the music. It just really all blends into basically creating this whole monster of a movie that is just so good. So the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, after, even with the episodes that I've done, the movies that I've watched, I think this might be my favorite zombie movie, because I just love every aspect of it. And obviously being like, one of those sort of kids, that was always fuck the system and shit like that. This was like a movie that really spoke to me at the time, especially at the time, because by the time I watched this, I was probably a full-blown alcoholic anyway. So, so I was very much like fuck the system and banned from everywhere that I could possibly go in my town anyway. So this was very much my movie of the time, but it's very much my movie now, and it's nice to see that it is still very much the movie now for so many people, which is really, really nice. I really do love that. So obviously we have the segment, I'll get to it very quickly. We have the segment, Your First Time. With you guys, obviously we know your first horror movie memories. I think we've had them on the show before. So what I will do is I will give you what I've started doing with my return guests is I've started getting recommendations. So just when I've done this, I'm going to ask you for a very quick recommendation from you, and then that way it gives you a little bit of time to try and think of one while I go through this. But the Your First Time segment, obviously, I like to put people on the spot. But Your First Time segment, of course, is where you send me over your first time horror movie memories, and I read it out on the show. This one was from Point Horror Book Club. You can find them on Instagram at Tales Point Horror Book Club. Thank you so much for sending this over. They put, my first horror memory is of my lovely nan, who sadly is no longer with us. She was a huge horror fan, and as this was the 80s, she used to have all sorts of horror films on hand. What a cool nan. My nan used to sometimes babysit me and my brother. We were around 6 years old, and our nan introduced us to our very first horror film, The Evil Dead. Same as mine. That was my second favorite. My second horror film was Evil Dead. My first one was Alien. Yes, you heard me right. As I watched the screen, terrified, she sat there laughing at all of the horror scenes, saying, yeah, she sat there looking at all the horror scenes, saying, "This is only mild horror." And next time I will put on a super scary one. I will never forget having to sleep with a light on for about 2 weeks afterwards. And to this day, I can't watch the film without it giving me anxiety and the sweats. I have many other stories from my times with my nan, who introduced me to even more horror films like Poltergeist, Hellraiser. She was a gem, and I credit her for being the reason that I love horror today. So that's a lovely little story. Shows how fucking cool nans can be, and it means a lot to me. So thank you so much for sending it over. But yeah, seeing Evil Dead is like an early or your first movie. Is definitely one of those that sets you on a fucked up journey. So yeah, but who wants to go first? Shall we go with John? John, have you got one to hand?
Yeah, I can do one. I'm gonna pull one that was recommended to us. We did a whole episode on it. I really dig The Hidden. The Hidden came out in 1987. It's basically a alien slug movie where slugs take over bodies and then hilarity ensues, but it does a really good job of like giving a lot of insane, like very 80s action sequences, a little bit of like a sci-fi vibe, and some good, old-fashioned horror gore. It was a movie that I wasn't even aware of until I think we covered it last year, I want to say, around this time. So I've only been aware of this movie for about a year, but I absolutely fell in love with it. It's over the top. It's got a lot of humor in it as well. And if I remember right, there's a brief appearance by Machete at the end of the movie, and that's always a plus.
Nice. Sean, go on.
I mean, I got a couple that I would not recommend that you see, but if you like garbage, it's a go-to for me. John loves this movie, Black Devil Doll from Hell. You can probably watch it on YouTube if you like just trash.
And of course, you did a fantastic episode about it, so you make sure.
If you like exploitation trash, it's about basically a ventriloquist dummy that comes to life and terrorizes this poor woman. The movie that I was talking about earlier when Steven Seagal was brought up, it's called Against the Dark. It is a zombie movie starring Steven Seagal. It is not good. I would not recommend you watch that, but if you hate yourself as much as we do, yeah, you go watch that. I had another one that I was John mentioned Killer Slugs.
Hold on. I just looked up Against the Dark on IMDb. Usually it will say like film or TV series or whatever. This just says video.
So. Yeah, I think it's video, probably. As with
sorry, as usual, I interrupted you. I apologize.
Yeah, I know, it's fine. Whatever. Fuck you. I would say also like Slither is always a big one that I would recommend if you haven't seen. And then I'm a huge fan of. We talked about this just recently, Nightmare Beach. if you haven't seen Nightmare Beach, that's a great horror, action, comedy, weird, throw everything against the wall and see what sticks kind of movie. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend that one too.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Nightmare Beach, I fucking love Nightmare Beach so much. It's a great movie. It is I was talking about this the other day. What I love about horror and one of the things that makes it interesting and exciting is the different levels of deep cuts. That's what I love about it, because you've got the horror fans that, like, I love horror, but obviously they see the stuff that's at the cinema, you know what I mean? And then they buy it or stuff, and it'll be the modern stuff. And then you start getting into it a little bit more, and then you've got films that, like me, you know, might be a little bit. So, you know, obviously you've got your Friday the 13th, your Nightmare on Elm Street, and then below then you start having the ones below them. You might get some people that might know, say, like Society and things like that. But then you start going like further down the deep cut route. Then you start going with like your Blood Rages, which is a film that I fucking love.
Yes,
yes,
I recommend that. Watch Blood Rage. That movie's fucking
Blood
great.
Blood Rage is a movie that almost every day of my life I want to watch.
I mean, you want a great 80s. You want a great 80s synth score. Blood Rage is fucking amazing. So
absolutely. So you get your films like Blood Rage. You get your films like that. Trick or Treat, which I will say no more about that. But that is another movie that, once again, it's so difficult to see in this movie. The only reason that I knew that I could get it recently was because it was called. What do they call him? Not Garbage Man, Ragman. That's it. They called him Ragman in the movie in Trick or Treat. It's in Germany. It's called Ragman. So that's how I managed to finally get to see Trick or Treat. But yeah, Nightmare Beach is a favourite of mine that I absolutely love, and I'm trying to hunt down the physical release of that at the moment, and because it's another movie that we. Oh, nice. But it's another movie that over here in the UK wasn't happening, you know. So once again, it's a good time to be in the UK. It's a good time to be a horror fan because of, you know, with the streaming services and stuff. It's one of the things that really does benefit us. Now we can see a lot of the movies, even things like My Bloody Valentine, which is like, you know, a pretty big sort of slasher. Once again, in the last 5 or 10 years, has had like a resurgence over here, but we don't have a physical release in this country of My Bloody Valentine. You guys got a 4K. We don't have a physical release over here, so we're still very much behind, but I'm glad. Yeah, top-notch recommendations, and of course Steven Seagal with shitty zombies. I'm sure it's absolutely fucking horrible. So there we go. That is everything in regards to Return of the Living Dead. There's you know, your first time horror movie. Remember, you've even got some recommendations, so look forward to those from our return guests on the show. And of course, now is you guys. It is your time to promote the absolute shit out of one of the best shows out there, Dewey Pod Monster. The floor is yours while I open up this
delicious beverage. So if you like hearing two middle-aged bald guys with beards talk about gems like Black Double Doll from Hell, The Nostril Picker, and Fat Guy Goes Nutsoid, you can check out our show. We talk about good movies like once a year. But yeah, you can find us our website.
We watched those in like a year. Don't lie to them.
Popular, whatever. Anyway, I just lost my. Anyway, you can find us. Our website is crap.town. That is an actual site. If there's something you want to hear us talk about, feel free to subject us to whatever you want. We might or might listen to that. It does work. We have a review coming up that will be a request. You can also find us at yourunpodcast.com. We're You Run Podcast Network members. So that's a great place to go. Check out not just us, but a lot of other great creators. If you go there, please check out more than one person. Like, there's a lot of people making good stuff there that many of them have been guests on BP show, and I know he's been a guest on their shows too. So a lot of great stuff comes out of there. And then social media wise, we're at Dewey Pod Monster pretty much everywhere except Blue Sky, where we are at crap.town, where you can find us. And I'll let Sean talk about his little offshoot of that if he wants to. So
yeah, I'm just at internalbleeding.crap.town. That's my Blue Sky handle. That's the only place I'm really on social. And I just post clips of stupid stuff that I think is funny, or once in a while, you know, a YouTube video or that I was probably drunk watching or something. So I'll drunkenly skeet over there. I had to think of what it was actually called. I'll skeet over there every once in a while. So
Are they
not
still
a great
calling them
follow, but I'm a
skeets?
follow.
Is that still what they are? So
Yeah, why would they change it?
I don't know.
I didn't even know it was called a skeet.
Yeah, man, you're skeeting all over the place.
Oh, fucking skeeting everywhere. Skeeting all over the town. Well, there we go. So there. Well, look, listen. As I said at the start, if you are watching or listening to this, you're probably already enjoying everything that John and Sean do at Dewey Pod Monster. It's a show that I listen to all the time. The only time I don't is if it's a movie that I know that I want to watch, and then I will watch the movie and then go back to it. If it's a movie that I know is going to be shit, I can't wait to listen to it. I might not even watch the fucking movie afterwards, but I know I'm going to get a great episode. But I absolutely love talking to these guys. Obviously, I've been on their show a few times now. You've been on Let's Talk Horror a few times now. You know, I always love speaking to you guys. You always have a good time with me. You have to put up with my shit because I'm a moron, and but we always have a good fun. And what a brilliant movie for us to be able to talk about. It's nice, you know, when you're always on the same sort of page when it comes to these sort of movies, because sometimes not everybody always is, but it's one of those movies that you can be on the same page for so many different reasons. There's three of us here, but all three of us could have different reasons as to why we love this movie. So it's a great movie to talk about, and it's a great movie to watch if you never have. Obviously, I always say I would hope that you fucking know what film we're talking about. If you haven't ever seen it and you're watching this, you've mugged yourself right over. But you just
We didn't ruin that much.
No, exactly. We haven't ruined too much. Just the entire movie. But like but the exciting thing about it is that there's so many little bits within this movie is what makes it exciting, and it deserves to be on this sort of like run that it is at the moment in regards to being a bit more in pop culture. It deserves to be out there. It deserves the credit, but it also deserves to be looked upon in regards to, you know, not just going, it's a good movie. There's so much reasons as to why it's a good movie, and obviously we spoke about it all. In regards to Let's Talk Horror, you know, I'm just doing more of these, isn't I? Just more episodes. I just keep doing them. I keep putting them out. Obviously, if you're watching this, then you're watching it on YouTube, and if you're listening to it, obviously it's available on every podcast platform. I'm really enjoying, you know, being back. I'm really enjoying these episodes. I truly love talking about horror, and I'm having amazing guests that I get to do that with. So I hope everybody out there is enjoying everything. Of course, we are on all the socials. Instagram is probably the one that I'm on the most. Because it's easier for me to figure out, because I don't really get all the others. So Instagram sort of works. So that's sort of the main hub for Let's Talk Horror, because obviously we do the Instagram lives on the last Thursday of every month. We've got the Saturday morning live stream show where I go through the week's horror movie news every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. We got loads of fucking shit, so just go and enjoy it. Let's Talk Horror. It's bloody everywhere, and I really hope that you're enjoying everything I'm putting out since being back. As much as, you know, my anxiety about it being rubbish is, I hope that it's not been, and I really hope that you're all enjoying it. But once again, thank you so much to John and Sean. Thank you both for coming on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it and not had a shit time.
Been skeeting all over the place. It's great.
Skeeting everywhere. Skeet Ulriching everywhere. But there we go. Well, there we go, guys. Look, until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.